Good evening, Rick. Would you believe it's Dr. Doom?
What's on your evil mind?
Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really hired, Mr. Stark?
Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host for tonight, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat at well, you can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can also find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can also find me at Roddykat on Reddit. No, you can't. Actually, you can, but don't go there. At News Nerds Need on Reddit. CB Caps on Instagram. All of that. And with me tonight, as he is repping his place of birth, his life, his love, the NY, Brooklyn, Agent _70.
What's up, everybody?
And you can find him at Agent _70 on Twitter and Instagram. Yes, I'm sure that's where he reps Brooklyn on the daily.
All day, every day.
And not with us tonight for a grand opening. I don't know what you want to call that. It's not even a grand opening. Either way.
No, it's a prep. I was about to say it is the early stages of prep work.
For sure, and other whatever reasonings. PCN _dirt on Twitter. Pop Culture Net on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com. INeedComics.com, where you can find him. And soon to be whatever the Vine alternative that's going to happen next week. Next year. I don't know why we keep saying that so early, but it doesn't matter. Also, not with us tonight is the founder of the Osiris that is Ish. Tim DOGG98. You can find him at Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. Click Nation, DKLIQNATION on Twitter. CB Cron on Twitter. TheClickNation.com, and of course, Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off.
Ring. There it is.
Delay reaction.
Yeah.
So, go check Tim out in his endeavors over there. You can find this podcast on Google Play, Apple, iTunes, aka Apple Podcast, Spotify, and other places like this Close Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And of course, with that, you can also find us on the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's the CSPN.us.
Do it today.
Exactly. Along with other fine podcast programming of the sort. Although we stand alone in our in our convictions. Shop.cspn.us. You can go there and get some merch from this fine program and other programs on CSPN. And, help keep our podcast free and all that good jazz. This week, folks, we've got a bunch of comics, as we tend to do. And we are going to start off with probably less of it's a new #1 issue. It's a 12-part miniseries that's coming in. It probably won't be as big as the last couple of them, and I'm probably underselling it. But Martian Manhunter #1 is what we are starting with this week.
All right. So, just as a quick recap, Martian Manhunter has always been a character that's been central to the DC universe and especially the Justice League, and it was definitely a twist in the New 52 and in DC Rebirth and all this other jazz that the Manhunter was not central to the founding of the Justice League, and it's interesting that it's taken this long to have Manhunter get his own spotlight, get some shine.
Right. And there would be some question. Some would say that does he even deserve any really, because he's always been kind of like, he is not necessarily one of the strongest, but could potentially be one of the strongest members of the team, but he's also a player, some would say.
Right.
So it's, some would argue whether he actually, what could you possibly do with him? But I guess Steve Orlando and crew is going to try.
Right. So they start this miniseries with the basics that we know of John Jones and his human secret identity, and that is of an earthbound policeman. And this is, the stage is set a number of years ago, specifically 3, and it involves a case with a human partner investigating multiple homicide at a home, and there are some gruesome remains and some interesting clues left behind that kind of evoke some of the things from that haunt John Jones from his past on Mars.
In fact, yeah, because it seemed like something from the way it looked like something from Mars made its way to Earth.
Possible.
Which seemingly caused him to go through some hallucinations throughout the course of the story.
Right.
Including one about his mating rituals. So
sure.
Oh wow, ooh, I didn't do this. That's weird. My tablet went to Martian Manhunter by itself. That's weird. Or
probably went to the last thing open, maybe.
No, it wasn't. That was I think that's the first thing I read, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what happened there. Regardless, so yeah, and we also seemingly get in the quote unquote flashback to his days on Mars, we get what seems to be, I don't know, it's not a retelling. We seem to get some possible new backstory to John, because there is a part of that once he starts going to this flashback, it seems like they're making him out that he was, because as a matter of fact, they even say in the first page of the book, like, Martian Manhunter was not always a hero.
Right.
And then when they get to the flashback, they show him doing some dirty cop business.
Right.
Like, so I don't know if this is, I'm going to assume that this is new.
Yeah, I think it's safe to assume that too.
Because, we never really get a whole lot about, well, we've gotten bits of John on Mars, but it's more dealing with his family than, what he actually did on Mars, during the time,
right,
that his people was thriving. So that's a new, slightly weird wrinkle for that character. Also, that I don't know if they put that in there for some reason. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to make that pay off in some kind of way, or try to make that pay off in some kind of way. But it just still seems out of the character from what we know of him. So I'm like, I don't know. We're waiting.
I was going to say that's probably the most important thing to get out of this book, because otherwise the story was pretty run of the mill. PCN_Dirt also read this issue, and his commentary is as follows: the last series to feature this character is great. This one squanders all the potential and delivers a mediocre story with art that made his head hurt. The art didn't make my head hurt, but I can definitely.
It was a little rough and kind of sketchy in places, but I mean, like, actually sketchy, like looking in places.
I was gonna say it's actually a pretty consistent style.
Sure.
But I definitely agree with Dirt's criticism of the story. It's, like I said, it's kind of run of the mill. Other than some of the revelations that we get from John's time as a lawman on Mars, that's really the only that's some of the only novel stuff that we get here.
Right, but again, it is the first issue of a 12-issue miniseries, so or they call it a maxi series. So not saying that anyone is, but shouldn't be no sense to rest the judgment until
2 or 3 issues in.
Yes, and if we see whether it's actually going to start going any place, because obviously that's not a thing you can levy against a book. Like, yeah, one issue of a book can be bad, but if it picks up some stuff later on, but obviously you don't want to, especially in a story like this, it's like, well, you don't want to try to go through the 12 issues and try to suss out if that's going to be the case, because it could very well be something that might be better read in trade or something.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know that yet.
Well, all I was going to say is sometimes you
ends up being any good.
It's what everyone says about first impressions, right? So
yeah,
we have to keep that in mind as well. So I definitely, I'm on board with Dirt's criticism that but the way I put it was that the story is kind of run of the mill. I hope that there's more to it. So we'll see.
Yeah, so we'll see. Like I said, it's definitely not necessarily the greatest start.
Sure.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It was all right. Like I said, that whole revelation was kind of weird, but it's like definitely not particularly the most auspicious start to a story.
Right, and it didn't exactly stick out. So,
right,
they kind of played it very understatedly. So, we'll see if there's more to that, and I'm sure there will be, because there's a 12-issue arc here that they're going to use to develop how John went from where he was on Mars and how that's going to play into what he's doing today on Earth. So,
there was also another revelation at the end of this book, which but we'll see what happens with that.
Oh, with the human partner?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we'll see if that human partner comes back in any form in current day stories. All right. So we'll move on to some other of the new launches this week, specifically the Defenders mini, I guess, mini crossover is the best way to put it. There's 4 crossover books and one final Defenders
ish, I guess.
Exactly. It's a mini crossover, and the first 2 issues of the mini crossover are from the Immortal Hulk and Namor. So we'll talk about the Immortal Hulk issue first, because I believe that one is first to come in time.
That is correct. And hey, this just along with the Immortal Hulk book properly, this kind of keeps that keeps the intrigue going. Except for it has nothing. Well, as far as I know, it has nothing to do with what's going on in Immortal Hulk, except for
except for it really playing off of what's going on there.
Right.
It's always not off-putting, but it's always somewhat confusing when a book is sort of told out of time or out of continuity, and you get a version of the Hulk that might be different from what's in the current book, but this is definitely straight out of the current book. This is definitely the Immortal Hulk, and in the first issue of the Best Defense limited series, it's actually it's still very much a deeply rooted psychological and horror thriller type story, where Bruce Banner happens upon what he thinks is an empty town, but he's being drawn to a particular scene. That particular scene is, spoiler alert, the scene he's drawn to is the apparent
demise.
I was going to say burning alive of or post burning alive of one Stephen Strange, 1/4 of the Defenders, of the OG Defenders, that is.
Yes, not to be confused with that crew from the Netflix series.
Exactly.
So yeah, we have that, and he's in town and he's doing his investigation part and talking to himself, and of course he and the other guy,
right. It's all very much in the vein of the Immortal Hulk, though.
Right, which to its credit, like if you're not reading Immortal Hulk, but you pick this up, you will get, it tells you enough to say that, hey, this is what's going on right now, but you will probably you may or may not still be somewhat confused.
Right.
But it would also, I would argue, it would probably make you curious enough to see what's going on in Immortal Hulk, which you should, because it's a good book. So yeah, it just goes into this big mystery about trying to figure out what's going on here in this town and what happened to, presumably what happened to Stephen Strange.
Right.
And we find Doc Banner on the trail of an item that was not found on the body, which is closely associated with Doc.
Mm-hmm.
And that trail leads him somewhere, and he gets to a place with it.
All right. So as we're moving along throughout the pages of the story, there are actually reprinted panels from early issues of the Incredible Hulk with Stan Lee scripts and Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and Paul Ryman, Dick Ayers and Art Simic art, and probably art inking and colors. And that, interspersing of these panels, like you said, if you're not reading Immortal Hulk right now, you might be drawn into it based on how these panels are interspersed and kind of retell parts of Hulk's origin story.
Mm-hmm. Because at first I was like, okay, this is weird that they're doing this in there, but apparently this is going to draw into the story somewhere, and it kind of sort of did.
Mm-hmm.
But not to the effect that that you would think it would be it's closely tied to what's going on in the story, or maybe it will be. We don't know, but doesn't seem to be.
Right. And going back to something that Roddykat and I were speaking about prior to going on the air, was that Al Ewing is writing this, and and you can tell, because obviously he's the regular writer of the Immortal Hulk series, and this is just an additional chapter in the story of that character as he's telling it now. And it's a pretty important story because of the way it's been laid out and how his connection with Doctor Strange, is built upon, is kind of reestablished here, from the aspect, or from the perspective of the Immortal Hulk. Mm-hmm. So, as you said earlier, there's a talisman that we're all familiar with that's a little different in the MCU, but it's a talisman that Doctor Strange uses, and someone has gotten it off of Doctor Strange's dead body.
Yes. They pried it from his cold dead hands.
Right. Or warm
dead hands, yes.
Exactly.
So I assume, well, you would assume from this, so because I guess we can go ahead and transition over to the next part of this, that's going to play into the next book in the series, which would be Namor, the Best Defense #1.
But it doesn't really.
But it absolutely doesn't.
Right. It doesn't really. So what's interesting is the Hulk issue actually is, it's super well done. There's a bit of a bit of tables being turned upon the antagonist in the story, who I'm not familiar with. I don't know if we're supposed to be.
Yeah, you got me on that one.
Right, exactly. I don't know if we're supposed to be familiar with this antagonist just yet, but what we find is that the antagonist has gotten a hold of the orb and actually can do astral projecting as well.
So here's my assumption on that. It's one of two things. It's an older version of Doctor Strange, somehow, that we will pretty sure find out when Doctor Strange's book comes out, next week?
Right.
Or it's an old villain of the OG Defenders.
Right.
Which I slightly doubt.
Don't know yet. So we'll find out next week. But as you were referring to, there's a second book out this week in this mini crossover, and that is Namor, the Best Defense #1. And yourself, myself, and PCN_Dirt read this.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I actually like this story. What I didn't like is that there really isn't too much carryover from the mystery that
that's the connective tissue that we could see.
exactly that plays out in the final pages. Actually, no, throughout the actual first issue of this mini crossover of the Immortal Hulk, there's only what, like a couple of panels
that connects. Well,
yeah,
there's a couple of panels that connects to one of the next books coming out next week, or whenever the next couple of books are coming out, or at least one of the next couple of books that is coming out, but not with the last story, and potentially not with.
Well, presumably, this actually it's a page. There's one page, has literally a ghost with a knife.
Well, yeah, there is that, because that was the part we forgot to mention from
right.
the Hulk.
Right, that's the crossover. Yeah, we that's kind of the connective tissue between the two issues. Other than that, there really isn't much.
Right. But there's also another connection to this story, to one of the upcoming books that has nothing to do with either one of those. It does, but we don't know what's going to go happen in the book. But another character comes into play. Let's put away from the book. But we'll get to that, because in this book, there's really not much to say outside of the fact that, hey, this is current Namor. This is emo goth Namor.
Right, and it actually ties into his story.
Right, at some point in the current story, because they even mentioned his run-in with the Avengers, so we know it's around that point.
Right.
He's looking for allies, as one would do, for Atlantis. He's with his council. They don't agree with what he's doing or how he's going about things, and Namor being Namor, gets the hot head and his trident out, and asserts his kingliness.
Right, and that doesn't rub some people the right way, literally. And what's very funny about this is that this is basically a continuation of Namor's story that is being told currently in the pages of Avengers. I'm not sure where the rest of Namor's story is going to play out. I don't know if they're gunning to relaunch Namor in his own series, or if they're waiting to see how the events in Avengers play out. As we've spoken about in the last few months, Namor's had a role in recent Avengers issues and his Defenders of the Deep, which is a group of undersea super types trying to wreak havoc in the seas and restrict surface dwellers from going into the seas. That's the gist of it. It's interesting to see that this is literally a continuation of that, and it's being presented as part of this Defenders Best Defense crossover, and it kind of it kind of sticks out because, like you said, there's little to no connective tissue between these first two issues of the series.
Yeah, I suspect this could be. I would suspect that this is in the middle of that stuff, and it's probably still going to play out in Avengers. Like, so that we haven't, as far as I know, we haven't seen any word on any books of Namor's,
right?
On, and maybe during the course of this Avengers thing, they might touch on it again.
Come to think of it, I don't know if that was a cough or a sneeze.
That was a cough.
Oh, okay. Now I know where it's coming from. Zdarsky. Okay. Zdarsky's writing Invaders. That's where it's going to come up.
Right. That is right.
That's it.
I totally forgot about that.
That's where it's going to come up. So that's why Zdarsky's put the story here.
Although that would not make any sense, because if it is the Invaders, then, well, I guess a part of that's probably going to be dealing with also the recent events with Cap and Namor and the
exactly
Avengers.
Right, exactly. This is like the first part of Namor's team allegiances.
But I'm thinking they're probably just gonna deal with that. Like that, the Avengers is probably gonna deal with that stuff I don't know. We don't know. We don't know. And
right. I'm just exactly. It just sort of fell into place just now. I was like, oh wait, Zdarsky's writing that of Invaders,
right,
and that's where a lot of this Atlantis attacks, part 2 stuff is going to come up again.
Or at the very least, I suspect the end result from
right.
If they play it like if they play out everything in Avengers, then the end result's going to come out in Invaders.
Right.
But again, we don't know anything because we don't even know when is that book coming out. Do we know?
Relatively soon. I've seen it in solicits.
Okay.
It's got to be out within the next few months before February.
Sure. So, but regardless, that's neither here nor there for this right now because
right, we're talking about Defenders, and we're gonna see how this ties into the other 2 books, the other half of the other 2 members of the OG Defenders who have one-shots coming out next week.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like I said, the only thing about this book is that the rest of it's like, well, he's on a journey to find some allies. He goes to seek out this group that hasn't been seen in a while. His council doesn't care for that, but he's going to do it anyway. And he goes out and runs into some trouble, runs into what potentially looks like a female version of him, sort of, or between him and Akuma and her people, and gets into a scuffle there, which leads him into a fight with their king, which leads somehow inexplicably leads them into outer space, which leads into the connection to one of the next books.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdly enough.
Alrighty.
So there is that, and with that, we can go on because this is an ongoing story. At the end of it, I called them the Namor Surfer because of that, and if that doesn't tell you what's coming up next, I don't know what will. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. So what we got coming up next is, do you want to put a book out there?
Yeah, let's see. We've covered a bunch of what we've read with PCN_Dirt. Let me just
wait. Let's do this. Sorry. Because we also have another book that's not tied to the story, but not tied to a character from the Defenders.
I was going to do Immortal Hulk number 10.
Okay, sure.
You're going to do Doctor Strange?
Yeah, I was going to go ahead and go the other way, but
we can go that too. That's fine because it's like you said, it's one of the other characters.
Yeah, and it's also the other book that we all presumably all read, except for Dirt.
Right, that's all right.
So Doctor Strange number 9, as Agent 70 said before the show, this issue slightly hits home to him.
Yeah.
And almost actually you might as well say a literal sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is after this has nothing to do with the events of the last issue because this is assumably a what would probably be called a filler arc. I don't know.
No, I was going to say that this is actually I don't know if it's a filler arc, but it's definitely picking up. It's definitely it looks like this is a one shot, but is kicking off a new story.
Yeah, I was about to think that it's not a one shot because I think there's something else definitely going to come out of this.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. I didn't agree with that, but
I see what you're saying about a one shot because of what happens in the course of the story, which leads to the end. That
right,
going to take off somewhere.
So ultimately, what this story is about is the comings and goings on around 177A Bleecker Street, and what is happening in lots of neighborhoods within various cities around the country, especially in New York, where neighborhoods are being slowly bought out so that development and redevelopment can come. And the way the way it's put in the opening page of this book is hysterical because it's so realistic to me to see that particular ad the way it is. And I applaud Wade and Jesus Saiz for depicting an ad like this so realistically. And as the story plays out, it's a story of a real estate firm trying to buy out various building owners around the West Village area that surrounds Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum.
Right, but that's specifically the couple of blocks that his house is on.
Right.
So, and it seemed like initially they just wanted to tear it down just so they could put up some big glass thing. But, and I don't know if I'm reading into too much into it, but as the story goes along and they keep trying to do this, and they or someone potentially learns of, or they think they learn of, you know,
but they have ulterior motives,
right?
Ulterior motives, not just, that way. Yeah, not just the value of real estate, and
right.
Based on Doctor Strange's rather public identity, you know, there's reason to believe that, you know, it wasn't too hard for them to figure out that there's something valuable that he's either guarding or has within his sanctum, and they're trying to buy him out, and it just makes no sense. So. Right. You know, as time moves along, there's different things that happen around the neighborhood. You know, there's literally jumps of time between scenes where there's strong arm tactics involved with trying to get people to sell, and there's dirty corporations that are trying to make these real estate deals and to get people to sign off on selling off their homes and buildings. And they even run a smear campaign against Doctor Strange,
whose identity at this point, because as Agent 7 said, there are leaps in time. So the leaps start before he is actually a more public figure,
right?
Than he ends up being, and then, you know, the smear campaign comes in when he actually seemingly sometime after he becomes that very public.
Right.
So which doesn't work out in their favor.
Exactly. It was a pretty comedic couple of scenes here towards the end. You know, Doctor Strange is ultimately successful in fending off the advances of the corporate real estate raiders. But what's funny is the epilogue, you know, to the story, where you wonder if this is one of those, like, you know, am I finally worthy of my title? Am I finally worthy of wielding these powers? It's very much a Jason Aaron Thor type of thing. You know, is he worthy to finally lift Mjolnir? And that's where his
student finally becomes the master.
Exactly. And you know, what's funny is that the epilogue jumps right into that.
Mm-hmm. And it's also worth noting that the whole real estate thing potentially ends up to being not as what they thought it was, or what they eventually thought it was, because in the conclusion to Steven's dealings with the real estate for people, who's like, nope, this is not what you think it is, because there's nothing here like what you're thinking it is, even though, you know,
we know that there are.
But he also says like, hey, this house is the house. So
right, and you know, any kind of talks about, you know, his own version of, with great power there must also come great responsibility.
Yes.
So that's, you know, that's why he protects the neighborhood he lives in, and that, like you said, kind of becomes the catalyst for the next story where the student becomes the master.
Mm-hmm. So we shall see what how that plays off, because he gets a visit from Not Tilda Swinton.
Right. Very much not Tilda Swinton.
But who's also presumed not amongst the living.
Right. And it's a pretty... Actually, we're coming up on an anniversary issue. It's the 400th issue of Doctor Strange.
Which is probably the other reason why this story is playing out the way it is.
Right.
So we shall definitely see, you know, what plays out with that. Which I could have sworn we just had an anniversary issue. Like, I'm sure we probably did like last year or something, but I don't know.
You got me.
Or maybe time's getting away from me. But I feel like we had another Doctor Strange anniversary issue fairly recently. So it's just weird. Regardless, it is what it is. So we shall see what comes out for that. But this was a pretty good issue for what it was.
Listen, it hit me a little too close to home. I was just like, oh my gosh, as a New Yorker, as a native New Yorker seeing this, oof.
Yes, and the things and the tactics and
Mhm.
with it, and like like even not being from New York, I was like, I can see things like that happening with such situations. So
Definitely. All righty. Let me just hit the last book that's related to the Defenders, in that it involves the Immortal Hulk, and that is Immortal Hulk number 10. Dirt and I both read this, and I liked his take on this. So after the Absorbing Man, our one of our guest stars in this mini arc, was turned into a Resident Evil boss monster last issue. It's pretty epic. Dirt wondered how Al Ewing would keep topping the horror. He's pretty sure he found it, and I kind of agree with this latest twist. But how do you top this? So there's a couple of things going on in this. One is that there's an interesting twist on the origin of the Hulk in this, and we don't know yet if this is going to be canon or if this is just going to be, just one of those, other things that just gets tacked onto a character story. But ultimately, what we have is an interesting view on what actually happened in when the gamma bomb exploded. And as I said earlier, there's actually, I wanted to mention there's a interesting guest appearance by none other than Bushwhacker, and you have to be very familiar with some old school like 90s Marvel characters to know who Bushwhacker was. He can make a gun out of his right hand.
Oh, right.
He was in Daredevil issues and Punisher issues, and
it's like a Cap villain or something, but I don't remember.
Right, and he makes an appearance here as a member of this shadow-based team that is trying to research the Hulk. And as I said earlier, we get more of the battle between the Absorbing Man / Resident Evil boss monster and Bushwhacker kind of intervening. And what we find is that the origin of the Hulk has been revealed to be something maybe totally different than what we thought it was. And I won't spoil it. It's definitely worth reading. It's definitely worth trying to figure out how we got here. The next issue can't come soon enough. This is one of the reasons why I kind of hate that I do at least take a quick glance at solicits, because I kind of knew where this was going, but it's still cool to see the process and how we get there. So, but yeah, definitely pick up Immortal Hulk. It's a pretty interesting read. There's been a couple of more superhero-y side stories, but the main horror story is still pretty good.
Yeah, I'm a couple of issues behind, but it's been quite interesting, to say the least.
Definitely.
And the one thing I've found out in the last few years is never underestimate Al Ewing.
No, you can't. He's definitely on a roll with this book.
So, that being the case, I guess we can move on.
Definitely. Throw something out there, because we're getting up to rapid fire pretty soon.
For certain. I believe you also read Killmonger #1, the other number one this week. So let's do that one. So if the name sounds familiar, and obviously if you've seen the most recent Black Panther movie, yeah, you absolutely know the name.
Right.
You know the name. So this is a little backstory.
His name is Adonis Creed. Oh no. Anyway.
So this is a Killmonger miniseries written by former guest of the show, Brian Hill.
Right.
Just throwing that out there, and this dives into the past that may dip slightly into the movie version. There's a seemingly, we don't know yet, but it seems a mix of comic and movie as things tend to happen nowadays.
Right.
Comic and movie mix of histories. Now, I'm going to sit here and say that my history with Killmonger's actual backstory from the comics not that great.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, you could tell me almost anything, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, sure, that was the thing that happened. Although I feel savvy enough to know that I don't remember him ever dealing with the Kingpin.
I don't remember him going to MIT.
Either, but that seems a product of the cinematic version.
Exactly. That's the point. Like you said, it's integrating the snippets of the movie origins and the movie stories into the main Marvel continuity.
Mm-hmm. So to Mr. Hill's credit, I mean, how the sliding retcons go in the Marvel U. So
right.
Especially given whatever cinematic ties there may be.
Sure, plug this in here, plug it in there,
It's like, well, it's been long enough. Nobody's going to care or know. Type of
God forbid you pull out the official handbook of the Marvel Universe from 1986. Oh no! Is that what Asia_70 is going to do? No. Go ahead. Even though I can, it's right there on my shelf in the essential form.
Nice. And yeah, that could be something that you worth doing, actually. Just get a little bit of
the original history was exactly.
Yeah, a little bit of context going on here. But that's in the case we see, like, the young Eric Killmonger, MIT grad, very smart. And we found this out early on. He's his dealings with the guidance counselor aside.
That was cold, man.
That was included, and you could also tell, especially from that, there's some definitely movie references.
Mm-hmm.
One specific one at the end of that dealing.
Oh yeah,
that comes up. So I was like, oh yeah, okay, we see where this comes from. But nevertheless, like I said, we see him seemingly going after one Ulysses Claw for reasons that do and don't necessarily make any sense.
Right. So I got my qualm with this, and shout out to Brian Edward Hill.
Mm-hmm.
At this point in time, I'm fairly certain Claw has been transformed into a being of pure sound. But I could be wrong.
Yes.
I could be wrong.
Could be, possibly. But again, this is where the mix of the comic and cinematic kind of blend in a very weird way.
Exactly. It gets a little screwy because he's going after with a gun, like a real gun.
Right. Not only that, well, first of all, we see Claw in both forms. We see him in the cinematic form, and we also see him in the classic costume.
Right. The cinematic form kind of makes sense because that's a flashback that goes way back, right? Into human form before he's traditionally been transformed into a being of pure sound.
Mm. And even with when you try to go after the planet, it's still in the past, but we just don't know how far in the past. But nevertheless, it is still far enough to where, okay, if he's in his costume, he is clearly has transformed.
Right.
So
maybe I need to read up on my Claw as well.
Maybe, yeah.
But when I see him, he's up, basically Killmonger
actually
looking for his revenge with a real gun, like a regular, with regular bullets.
Or at least, or so we think. Like maybe it was a vibranium bullet, but still, I can't see, how that was going to
disrupt anything. Yeah.
Yeah, or enough to be worth taking a shot. But he meets up with this crew named after a suit of cards.
I thought it was
or chess pieces, rather, I should say. Because the first person who actually interrupts his attempt to kill Claw, and I thought when the first person that he meets up with during this was a person we know from both comics and cinematic. He was like, what is she doing here?
Yeah, I think that was a purposeful swerve.
Yeah, and even similarly named also.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it turns out not to be that person. And I have gone on to just assume that this could be the person that he ends up with at the beginning, or he ends up with at the beginning of the Black Panther movie.
Possibly.
I don't know, because we never actually got a name for her
right
up until the time that, his end dealings with her, sadly.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, he ends up running up against this crew who are working for one King of New York, aka Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, but under the guise of Kingpin's not letting anything happen in New York without his notice, and this crew, the head of this crew named King, is like, look, we got a thing we're gonna do, Kingpin's the way to get there, and we can get you close to Claw, and you can do whatever business you got to do. They run afoul of each other, sort of, and apparently, like, do we know anything about those characters? Like, does any of those characters seem familiar to you?
No.
We do know King is powered some kind of way, so
right.
Either he's a human or a mutant, one of the two. I don't know.
Right. No, we're not sure at this time. And it's interesting, in the next issue ad at the end of the book, you see them in their kind of costumes, and they all wear masks and uniforms that have the chest symbols on them, and Killmonger's got a pawn on his uniform.
Which, if that's not a sign, we don't know what it is.
Right.
So, and it's like, if you're thinking, there could be the Marvel's version of the Royal Flush game, probably, kind of, sort of. We don't,
yeah, right. They need some flying cards.
I know, right? So, to his credit, Brian Hills, says in the letters page, is like, look, he's not here to waste your time, and he's definitely got a story to tell that's not going to be, as easy as you think it could be with this character.
Right, because I think where he wants to go, and what a lot of people mentioned about the character after coming out of the movie, was you wanted to root for him, and then he did something that made you hate him again.
Right.
And I get that feeling that that's where this story is going to go.
Right. Yeah, so it's not going to be as simple as like, well, you know where he's going to be, so it's going to be an easy slide to get there, and like, so he's making an attempt that's starting out interestingly enough.
Mm-hmm.
So we will see how it goes. I don't know. Is this supposed to be what, 5 issues or 6? I don't remember. Okay.
In the letter, he says 5.
Okay, so yeah, that one I would imagine that still holds true, because I don't think nothing's changed with this book. So, like I said, interesting start to this miniseries, and I'm not one of those ones who think that the quote unquote villain should be a sympathetic character, but there at the same time, there's interesting stories to most villains.
Mm-hmm.
So this could potentially be one of them. We'll see.
Alrighty, so I think it's time to bring up the Vulcan and start rapid fire.
Okay.
Let's roll. Yeah, considering we discussed a number of books already this week, let's run into rapid fire. You want me to lead?
Sure, go for it.
I've got a bunch of books to go through, so does Roddy, so let's keep it moving. Let's finish the books that PCN_Dirt and I both read, beginning with Batman number 60. So my comment on this was that the deconstruction of Batman just continues at the hand of ? Bane. We're still not 100% sure what's going on, and Dirt's thoughts kind of mirror that. So he guesses King found a way to surprise us for issue number 60, but this makes absolutely zero sense. The problem is he's more confused and annoyed than intrigued, and I can definitely sympathize with that feeling. Next up, let's see. That does it for the books that I read in that Dirt read also. I'll cover the Green Lantern number 2. This has, again, some seriously creepy, quirky, funky alien art by Liam Sharp. Grant Morrison's story on this is definitely heavy on laying down of background information, because there's a lot to this group of outlaws that have broken free of Green Lantern custody and have injured some Green Lanterns, and now Hal Jordan has been tasked with tracking down this group and everything that and everyone connected to the breakout. And what's interesting is that the finale, the final page cliffhanger, that is one of those things where when something happens, you expect ripples to happen in other books because it's that big, and you're always kind of curious to see why this only happens in one hero's book and doesn't get felt in like Superman's book or something like that. It's that big. So, but yeah, lots of background being laid by Morrison in this. There's plenty of backstory to this that he is and context that he's laying out. Next up, Uncanny X-Men number 4. So in a nutshell, it's been leading up to the relaunch of Uncanny X-Men has been leading up to the reveal that Nate Gray of the Age of Apocalypse is playing himself off as the savior of mutant kind, sometimes almost too literally. And it's all, this is and there's a bunch of reveals in this issue from that reveal how we got to the point, how certain characters got to where they are at the ends of the first 3 issues. Yeah, it's a little creepy to see Nate Gray running around like he can literally walk on water, and that's what some of the asides are drawn from. I don't know if right now it's still something of a tough read for me. Winter Soldier number 1. This is a small launch of a number 1 issue this week. It's got an interesting premise. Essentially, it's Bucky helping folks who feel like they're in over their heads as henchmen at Hydra or AIM or in a criminal enterprise, and this is Bucky trying to help people redeem themselves and basically go into witness protection. And one of these missions goes badly, and the cliffhanger reveal at the end of this issue is pretty interesting. Again, it's one of those times where I really shouldn't be reading solicits, because it was kind of ruined for me, like what this character is that's introduced at the cliffhanger. But it's an interesting premise. It's got a lot of real world parallels to it. So if you're into that stuff, feel free. I'm always a fan of seeing what they're willing to do with the Winter Soldier. I still think it's such a cool concept. He doesn't need to be. I'm glad they stopped making him the Watcher or the Nick Fury man on the wall replacement. I kind of like him as like that super spy assassin type that's on the good guy side. And that covers my books this week. The other book that Dirt read, I don't think Roddy read. Did you? Shazam number 1.
No, I was gonna skim it, but apparently I'm having issues with that. So
that's okay. Basically, Dirt just said that it was super fun and super cheesy and everything that Shazam should be, though the backup story artwork wasn't very good for him.
Not enough Mr. Tawny for him.
I don't know. So that's that for rapid fire for myself and Dirt.
Cool. Then I should get to mine. I was just trying to skim this, skim that Winter Soldier.
Yours are just stars, Star Trek and Star Wars.
Yeah, pretty much. So we start off with Star Trek versus Transformers number 3. Folks, the takeaway from this book is that there is a new figure that should be out in stores, and if it hasn't been out in stores yet, it should be. That's the most I'm going to say about that, because guess what? You got Star Trek, you got Transformers, you have a very iconic ship. You put those together, folks, and you get exactly. So yes, folks. The opposing sides are doing their thing. The Klingons and the Decepticons are together, and they seemingly had the crew of the Enterprise, the animated version, the animated series version is worth pointing out, on the ropes along with some Autobots, but Ratchet and Kirk end up having an idea, which culminates in, and I'm not sure how this, because I'm not sure when or how this happened, but apparently they were trapped underground, and so was the Enterprise somehow. I don't know when that part happened, because I know the Enterprise kind of came in last issue, and something happened. Regardless, some things happened. They escaped, and folks, the USS Enterprise is now a Transformer, led with, I guess you might as well say, Kirk being a proto headmaster. In a sense.
How did Scotty feel about this? That's the person I think who would care.
He hadn't said anything yet.
Oh, okay.
Because basically what ends up happening, so the Enterprise went to check out this mining colony, to run down the story real quick, and then the Transformers story kind of blends into there, because the Transformers end up on this colony, and they both awaken, and the war starts again. So there were some traps, so there were some miners and whatnot that got in the way, of course, and Optimus wanted to help, and that ends up happening. And cut to this, and now the teams get separated. But the long story short, Scotty, Emrys, and a couple of the crew were away from the captain, but they get transported back onto the Enterprise right before the Enterprise transforms. So we didn't get a chance to get Scotty's reactions, yet. But I'm pretty sure next issue we will definitely hear something from Montgomery Scott about said transformation, because that's where we left the end of the book ended, with the transformation. And the name of the transformed USS Enterprise, by Kirk's name, by the way, is Fortress Tiberius. If you have seen my CB caps, you saw more recent CB caps, you have seen that image of the last page in all of its glory, and I want that figure pretty badly.
That's funny.
So there is that. Anyway, rapid fire. Next book is Star Trek: The Next Generation, Terra Incognita. So we have the continuing voyage of the Starship Enterprise, new Next Generation version. Seemingly did not have anything. So this was supposed to be a mix of the Next Generation and the Mirror Universe version of the Next Generation. And this particular, I don't know if this is actually a miniseries anymore, because it seems like it's an ongoing, and I'm not sure how because there haven't been not much on the Mirror Universe outside of the fact that Mira Barkley is around, except for at the end of this book where we found out there is another Mirror Universe counterpart of the crew that is in the Prime universe now, and Barkley has been made well aware of this, and it is probably the last person, one of the last persons he would probably want to be messing with on either side of the universe at the end of this. But outside of that, it was just a story of Worf and Crusher and Data and Barkley on an away team to try to save this planet that has some sort of plague going on.
Mm-hmm.
And of course Worf being Worf, and he and Beverly kind of butt heads once or twice, but they still work out, and things happen. They save the day. It's basically an issue and or story of the Enterprise. So outside of what happens at the end, excuse me, Next Generation, not the Enterprise. That's a different show. Anyway, next book, Star Wars: Age of the Republic, Qui-Gon Jinn #1, because you can never have enough Star Wars books. Cha-ching. So this starts out the series of one-shot stories during the Age of the Republic that
our favorite time.
Yes, indeed.
I say that fully tongue-in-cheek.
Yes, he does. But actually, I didn't have as much of a problem with the prequels.
Yeah, that's your body saying you lie.
I know, right? The cough portrays me. Oh, excuse me. But no, I actually didn't. Attack of the Clones was suck, but the trilogy in itself, hey, it has its merits. Regardless, I think this story particularly takes place well before the events of the specifically Phantom Menace, obviously, but regardless, because there is no Anakin. Obi-Wan does show up briefly, but this is basically a story of Qui-Gon and his he's on a mission which doesn't go well, which doesn't, which slightly kind of sort of mirrors the beginning of Phantom Menace, actually, but there is no Jar Jar at all. So he ends up back on Coruscant. He ends up questioning the Council and the Jedi way, as Qui-Gon has tended to do during his brief his brief stint in the universe. But it's him questioning, or at least the cinematic universe, I should say, but him questioning the Force, and that's what it was. But he goes off to find his answers, and he does, and he comes back to finish, or finds a way to finish his mission. And of course, Yoda shows up, and they're talking in Jedi cryptic tongue, as they tend to do. So it's pretty much a relative one and done with that. But it's if you're a fan of Qui-Gon, I'm sure you'll appreciate it. It plays on quite familiar beats.
Shout out to Matt Wang 97 at Matt Wang 97 on Twitter, who claims that there is a Jar Jar Binks vintage action figure on my shelf behind me. There is not.
Oh dear.
Go on, finish up your rapid fire.
Yes, well, that's actually it, because that is my last book.
Alrighty.
No, it's not. No, it is not. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Because there was actually one more Star Wars book, and I totally forgot about those, because this one was kind of awesome. Because it's Star Wars 58, so we find out that in a world, no, I'm not gonna do that. So Luke, Leia, and Han are trapped on this world that doesn't have any means of getting off world. They're kind of a seemingly peaceful planet. There's like a trader that comes around every 6 months or so, that because they're hiding out from the Empire, because they were dropped off by Sana Starros a couple of issues back. So seemingly they're trapped here for 6 months or so, like that. But they've whatever, they met some of the local people, one of which is the head of the clan, and his daughter, who Luke seemed to be kind of smitten with, looks like. But the interesting part about this is that the Thane, who's the head of the clan, and his daughter specifically, may be related to, I don't know if we know any of the Jedi, but we do know, we find out during the course of the last couple of issues is that the daughter and the father, the daughter's name is Tula. The father's name is Thane. His title is Thane. His last name is Marcona. So the Marcona family are potentially related to Jedi's, because we find out that Tula's grandmother is a Jedi who fell in love with a roguish type person. They settled on this planet, but then they died, and then her father, Tula's father, left, met with a lady who's a field for technology, but she died because apparently they have a way of killing off women in the Star Wars universe that's potentially awesome. But they came back to the planet, settled here, and made a life for themselves. So Tula definitely knows, we don't know if she knows the Force. We don't know if she could be Force sensitive. That's not something that's being played up as being something that's going to come up. But we do know that they haven't had any Imperial issues, but the way for Luke and Leia and them to get off the planet could possibly bring them in contact with the Empire, because Luke's trying to fashion a transmitter that could either bring Sana back or bring the Empire, who's supposedly in the system. And Tula's kind of warning Luke, was like, hey, I know you want to get off planet, this and the other, but what you're going to do could potentially put us in danger. So, but Luke being Luke and kind of antsy is like, okay, fine. But then talking to Leia, who's apparently been off cooking up her own plans, what we come to find out at the end of this issue, has been wanting us to wait and sit. And Han's just being Han, because he's just like, hey, just enjoying the time and whatnot. And they talk. And matter of fact, Han even in this issue even brings up some solo Star, a Star Wars story background issue that he tells Leia, which is weird. So some of that kind of comes out. In fact, the beginning pertinent parts are kind of sort of come out in so I was like, well, that's weird, but at the same time, I'm sure it's going to tie it in some kind of way. So some of this stuff always comes out in the course of this issue. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking to see, hopefully there's going to be more on this Tula character and the family specifically, because I am really curious if this is a known Jedi or this is possibly somebody, we will get to know at some point. But that is it for me. Actually, I forgot to put a book in the thing, so there you go. So we're done with the rapid fires and the books.
All righty, here come our clicks of the week.
And we already have one PC_Dirts. Whose is Immortal Hulk the best defense? Number one. Yeah, we didn't get one from Tim, but you got one?
I am going to go with the other Immortal Hulk book this week, Immortal Hulk number 10.
Okay.
That was full of lots of interesting tidbits in the regular story. I definitely liked the Best Defense book also. But maybe it's because I'm pretty invested in the story right now, so I really liked where this was going, where this one went.
Gotcha. And for myself, I'm slightly kind of torn, because the best thing out of one book was potentially the last page that I've already told you about, and the other book I'm thinking about is a potential character or two that hopefully will have a long life, but knowing Star Wars and people who write it or do something about it probably won't. I mean, the Enterprise transforming is a pretty damn dope deal. Let's be honest. But I'm going to give it to. I'm actually really torn for this. You know what? Yeah, I'll because I still need to wait and see on that character, but this character's awesome. So Star Trek versus the Transformers #3 because Transforming Enterprise.
Nice.
That's a hard choice. That was actually a hard choice because, like I said, the even though nothing, quote unquote, nothing happens in Star Wars 58, then something actually, we do get some character development and some stuff that I'm really looking forward to seeing more of.
Right. Alrighty. So we're going to do our first ad read of the night and then transition over. So our first ad read of the night is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Have you ever tried an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your tastes and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink Wines through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we go to the news.
Indeed. Shout out to Classic Material for sending me a thing on that Wink Wine. I keep forgetting to do something with, but
Same.
Yeah. So one of these days, maybe we'll actually have a bottle of said sponsored wine.
Yep.
But in the meantime, we go into the cinematic news as we tend to do about this time, and we start off with Chris Pine has a vital Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse cameo. Spoiler alerts, folk.
Yes, spoiler alert.
We're talking about this. I believe we were talking about this at the end of the last show.
We did.
And the spoiler is none other than Chris Pine is playing Peter Parker. Why is that significant? Because it's the Peter Parker of Miles's universe,
right?
Which is the movie is partially set in, or it's like probably mostly set up, man, more than likely.
Right, kind of an older, because you don't necessarily equate him with like a young kid's voice,
right?
I think they're playing a bit with the Ultimate timeline where the Ultimate Spidey, the OG Ultimate Spidey, was a little older when he got killed.
Right. Which, I mean, as far as the Miles is concerned, he kind of was, but yeah, not that much more older, I guess.
No, still in school. That's the thing.
Yeah. So yes, so Chris Pine is playing the dead version of he's playing Ultimate Spider-Man who died in Miles' universe, as we know from the comics.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. Have you gotten your tickets yet?
What's that?
Have you gotten your tickets yet?
No, this is another thing that I have to work out with friends that want to go see it. We just got to figure out the right time and day.
But anyway,
what's that?
As it sounds like they might be on sale.
Right. This would explain why I see ads with Adobe for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse required inventing a new kind of animation technology. Mm-hmm. So apparently, with having 9 distinct animated Spidey, actually, wait, hold on. They need to create a new look. Let's see, what is this? It means that they had to invent a new kind of animated technology. I'm not sure where this is in the.
So basically, they seem like they're mixing the new style. They've gone through many styles to try to get the right one for this movie, and it seemed like they found one that was kind of a mix of hand drawn and computer digital use that seemed to work out with them. So it's apparently some new inventive type of. It's a new style that hasn't been done before. So, and if you've seen the trailer, like it's obviously it looks quite striking, but it's not, so it's not necessarily completely CGI, but it's not completely hand drawn either.
Right.
From from what I gather from it. So, and this article just kind of goes into that. So normally I would have put that in the clickbait section, but I figure it's like, this is kind of interesting personally to me anyway. So
okay. And
just also to bring up the fact that, hey, guess what? That movie's coming out real soon. And I'm excited. So next up, Infinity War director confirms what happens to the Asgardians after the snap.
So it involves a little bit of math.
Yeah, apparently. So,
because if they let half go, and then another half has to go when the snapping happens, how many Asgardians are left?
Right. And if you remember from Infinity War, the ship blew up, and presumably there was a bunch of Asgardians still on it. So, and I think they did say they took some of them.
No, they said they let half go.
Right.
They let half go on the ship. They killed the half, including Loki, and they tried to kill Thor.
Heimdall. Yeah, and
Heimdall, right? And Valkyrie gets away with the other half, but then a half of that half
is right.
Exactly.
And I believe, per Tessa Thompson, Valkyrie is still alive, so we
right. So that
somewhere, but
now we have a quarter. That's
basically
what it comes to.
So clearly, Thanos' mask was kind of slightly off, but hey, it's killing for killing's sake. It's just, at some point it is. But speaking of the snap,
right? So check this out. So this is some messed up stuff, right? That way, I must have skipped the story.
No, you didn't.
No. Like in my mind, like when I was reading. So you have the Infinity Wars one. So Thanos' snap from Infinity War has an official name.
Yes. I still like to call it the snapping.
Right. There's lots of different ones. What do they call it? Oh, the decimation.
They call it, yes. It says yes. The decimation is what they call it. Some people would have called it the event, but apparently the Battle of New York has been called the event in the Marvel Netflix stuff. So I guess they probably called it that. Or it says here the snapping, which my personal favorite. I did not know they had this in this article. That was literally something I thought of myself. So, but or at least I thought I did, but apparently I'm not the only one. Regardless, the snapping is the decimation isn't quite catchy as the snapping or the leftovers, which that's a HBO series, so probably wouldn't do that. But it makes sense. So yeah, they're calling it the decimation. Okay.
But it makes sense. I hate to say it,
Yes, sure. I mean, it's a thing.
Right. So the next bit of news is what I'm mad about. Go ahead, and I'll tell you why.
Avengers 4 trailer release date reportedly revealed. So yeah, so there's a I wasn't going to put this article in here because I don't like going, it's like once it gets something that's official by official means, I would like I would read it. But apparently sites like to comment on rumors and speculation and rumor sites and for people on the internet. So apparently some guy on the internet who's, I guess, supposedly pretty decent about who has a history of being accurate about stuff, said that the first trailer for Avengers 4 will drop this Friday. Then that is this Friday the 6th at the time of this recording.
It's the Friday the 7th.
7th, sorry, because it's the 6th as the time of this recording. And he says around 9:00 a.m. So
you know why? Because people have meetings at 9:00 in the morning. How are you supposed to watch the trailer and react? Whatever. That's just me venting.
Somebody's upset.
I'm not a fan of these, these AM reveal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it says here when's. Oh wait. So okay. Yeah. So there was also a previous rumor that said that the trailer was going to drop this past Wednesday on the 5th, which didn't happen. But he according to this person says it was due to President Bush's death. Which, by the way, George H.W. Bush is dead, not the father.
Right.
Blah, 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 whatever. I mean, it's a sad loss. Let me not say that. That sounds mean.
No, of course. But at the end of the day, that actually makes sense.
Sure.
Because they were doing funeral stuff that day too. So
yeah, and apparently still are because the post office ain't running.
Well, no, they did the national funeral, and then they did the one that was in Texas today, I think. So,
so regardless of all,
but that was happening Wednesday, so that
right.
that explains the Wednesday, the pushback from Wednesday to Friday.
If that was actually the case, and like you said, reasonable if that is happening. So we will possibly get a trailer tomorrow. But regardless, actually, we'll get to that in a minute because there's a trailer that did pop out, but we got another thing ahead of that. So we will, we'll see next week if that actually was true and this person was actually right. Nevertheless, next up, Jude Law's Captain Marvel role may have been revealed, and actually a couple of other tidbits may have possibly have been revealed due to a new line of Funko Pops,
right?
That are coming out what did I just do?
Oh well, very quickly, I was about to say toys and toy reveals have had a very funny role in revealing movie spoilers. Oftentimes they come from Lego. Nowadays they come from Funko and even from Marvel Legends too.
Yeah. In this case, we get the fact that he could be playing Yon-Rogg, which makes sense given the storyline that is being used for the movie,
exactly.
AKA Kelly Sue's Comics run. And we also get from this line of toys, which by the way includes Marie Rambeau figure. We get 3 different versions of 4 different, 5 different, 6, 7 different, like 8 different versions of Carol in different ways, which that's normal, including her Star Force one, which apparently is named Verse. She's going by Verse, which could possibly be the name she was going by when she's in her Star Force iteration. Maybe, possibly, according to this. And of course, we get the cat who's not named Chewie, but the same kind of cat.
But it's sadly named Goose.
Yes, Goose.
And there's definitely an aviator link there. Fans of Top Gun, shout out, rest in peace, Goose.
Exactly.
Talk to me, Goose. Talk to me, Goose.
Goose with 2 O's. But yes, so Chewie's going by Goose, and I guess it's not going to be the alien cat that we know from the comic run. And again, it
might be.
Well, or it might be, and it's a swerve. Sure, could be, possibly. And of course, yeah, maybe. We'll see when the movie comes out.
There's Marvel Legends spoilers involved there.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yep.
Okay, I didn't get that one. So, but yeah, we get a Carol in her Captain Marvel suit. We get with helmet, without helmet. We get the Star Force one with helmet, without helmet. Well, excuse me, with helmet, with Mohawk, without Mohawk, which that's a weird thing to do. We get a Nick Fury one, Skrull. I don't know who in the world is this on a bike. It's not Coulson. Regardless, there's a Funko line, and I'm sure the Caracore and others will be eating it up. But yeah, like I said, it's so from that we got apparently that Jude Law's character is possibly playing Yon-Rogg and other things. So next up, speaking of Captain Marvel,
okay,
and
is it my turn?
Yeah, go ahead and take both of these, actually.
All right, where am I? Oh, the poster. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Captain Marvel poster arrives before the new trailer and rumored Avengers 4 update. So, right. So we got the trailer.
But guess what? We got a new trailer.
Right. So we got the trailer during Monday Night Football earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty cool. Some people were nonplussed by it. I like the fact that it's still fairly understated. I want to see more revealed in the movie and not in the trailer.
Yeah, the one thing I was kind of bothered, not necessarily bothered, probably too strong, but that they did was that, and I know a lot of people had an issue with or took light of whatever the scene where Carol was punching the old lady on the subway,
right?
And they expanded on that in this one, which I was like they could have just left that alone.
I mean, I don't know who hasn't wanted to punch out an old lady. I'm kidding.
That is a New Yorker talking.
Exactly. You know, I don't know, man. Like sometimes people deserve that, but anyway.
Then
that's not the PC response there.
No, but that's PC_dirt response.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Where is my? There we go. So,
but yeah.
All right, and the follow-up story to that is the full trailer was released by Marvel Studios.
It's a good looking trailer. Like there's just some stuff from the last trailer that shows back up in here, but it kind of expands on some stuff. And again, you know, if you're waiting for the movie, which isn't coming until next year, excuse me. I wish it was next year, but that's there's a lot coming out next week.
Yeah, but March is not that far away anymore. That's scary.
Yes, that is true. But like I said, you know, like you said, you don't want to give a whole lot from the movie away. And this, like I said, this kind of retreads stuff that's been in the last trailer, but also adds to it.
Right. I'm glad. I was just going to add that I'm glad that I don't think we've seen the best scenes in the trailer. I'm always glad for that.
Right. Although I don't know that last bit of the trailer seemed, for lack of a better word, pretty epic.
Right. But hopefully it's just part of an even bigger epic scene.
Right. So,
I like that there was someone online who saw that was very similar to Iron Man flying around in the Avengers. When he's flying up at the spiral, the beam, the light beam or whatever that was opening the world, the portal.
Maybe there is more tied to that than you know, tying it back together.
Right. But all right, so you got the next one, which is another Captain Marvel story.
And yeah, this one is kind of like that Spider-Verse one in that it could have been in clickbait. Whatever, I'll put it here because Captain Marvel's Mohawk costume is the result of a comic creator's bet. That's a little interesting bit of trivia that not a lot of people knew of. And this is also the reason why I love Kelly Sue DeConnick. So basically, the from Kelly Sue DeConnick's run, the short story is that she wanted to get Jamie McKelvey to redesign the comic redesign the costume because they didn't want to go with, you know, the traditional bikinis and sash combination because hey, update, you know. Which was probably sorely overdue, to be brutally honest, let's face it. But Marvel wouldn't pay for it, and she talked to the editor, and it was like, no, she's not gonna do it. However, if she could get Jamie to do the design, and you know, just on his own. And Marvel he would run it. Then I think it was Steve Wacker who was editing the book,
right?
Yeah, it was. So he was like, "Well, if you can get him to do it and just pass it along, and you know, do it himself and pass it along." So Kelly Sue DeConnick went to Jamie McKelvey and made a bet with him. Basically, it was like, hey, you do this, you get paid. Either way it is. The short story is either you get paid by Marvel or you get paid by me if you do this redesign. Because she really wanted the redesign and wanted it from him because he's known for doing, you know,
costume redesigns,
good costume redesigns in modern fashion and so and so. So it worked out that Marvel bought the design, so she didn't have to kick out her own money, and she even made a point that she's like, yeah, it's like it was a kind of a stupid bet to make because she didn't know because if she had lost the bet, she would have been coming out of her own pocket. She would have been basically fronting money on a redesign that the company should be paying for. which is kind of a stupid thing to do for a multi-million-dollar company. Fronting something for a multi-million-dollar company.
Right.
So legit. But nevertheless, it worked out, and here we are with the current costume. A version of the current costume.
Well, it's a pretty accurate version of the current costume.
Well, the trailer even does have her with the helmet with the Mohawk, so it definitely does. It is definitely taking that page. So,
right.
But there you go. That is the story of how the redesign happened, and I'm like, interesting.
All right, pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big stories that came out this week is that Marvel has reportedly started developing a Shang-Chi MCU film, hoping to make that a franchise. So that's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, if it happens and they do right by it, because sometimes companies are tone deaf.
Yeah, I mean, we were poking fun at who they might cast as the lead. So,
and to be fair, I wasn't. That was not an original one for me, because that joke has been going around on the internet since this.
Yes,
realistically, but so
it's like they'll cast Matt Damon as or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or Scarlett Johansson, as the joke went. But so. According to Deadline, Shang-Chi will headline his own film franchise, appropriately named Shang-Chi Master of Kung Fu. We have a Chinese-American writer, Dave Callahan, that will handle the film screenplay, while directing is currently being pursued. Callahan helped write the upcoming Wonder Woman 1984 and will pen the sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse sequel, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the Spider-Gwen one. They couldn't find a woman to do that. Anyway. So if this report seems to be true, it'll be the first Asian character-led
superhero movie.
Yeah, or superhero film in general. Yes, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. Hopefully that happens, and hopefully they do right by this.
That's the hope. Now we get to some of the bad news that dropped this week.
Well, it was inevitable. I don't know about how bad it was, but Daredevil canceled. There is no season 4. It was inevitable, because they've canceled the other shows. I can't imagine they would have just canceled all the other shows and
kept Daredevil, right?
Kept this, right? I will say, and actually, I'm going to tie in this next one too, because there's also that in the midst. Marvel says that Daredevil character will quote unquote live on in future projects. Doesn't say how, and I'm pretty sure there's a speculation of going to Disney streaming service. However, I have seen an article that I didn't put in the lineup that said, and I don't know how true this is or where this was coming from, and I need to find that article again, but there was an article from some site that said that Disney doesn't want any of the shows.
Disney doesn't want
the Netflix shows.
Oh yeah, I figured as much.
And I did too, because everybody. So the speculation was, and we went over this before, that all of these shows are being canceled so they could put them on the Disney show, so they could put them on the Disney streaming shows channel. Which, as I said before, sure, if they were going to do it, they would do all of the old shows, but that wouldn't make sense because it's Netflix's shows. They don't have anything to do with that. We've already talked about that. Like, sure, they could put all the old shows in there in addition to the Netflix stuff. I mean, but the Netflix stuff is going to stay on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
But they could also put it on there too, since it's partially theirs. But people were saying, well, no, they're just going to take it up on the Disney streaming thing, and it doesn't. If that article is to be believed, which I need to find and see, what it particularly said, then they don't want it, and they're not going to do that. So, which makes sense, because they don't necessarily have to do that. It's what people were wanting and speculating.
All right.
So that is that. So it's, and the only 2 shows that are left, which I'm pretty sure are going to get the axe at some point, are Jessica Jones and The Punisher.
Right.
Both of which I think are having, it looks like, they're both having a new season coming up.
I believe so. I know
Yes.
Punisher's already finished filming, so
Correct. And I believe it says here that there's a Jessica Jones, there's another season of Jessica Jones. So I would go on and assume that those are probably going to get canceled after those seasons, since they were already in the works. We'll see. Next.
Runaways season 2 trailer introduces new powers and more characters. I need to watch the first season.
I know, right?
Next up.
Yeah, there's not really much else to say. Star Wars sad news. Star Wars and Howard the Duck, co-writer Gloria Katz died.
Oh, rest in peace.
Yes, definitely rest in peace. She was 79 and she died due to ovarian cancer.
Wow.
According to the Hollywood Reporter. So that is sad news indeed. A little interesting piece of history here is that Katz and her husband Willard were hired to rewrite American Graffiti for George Lucas, and on the success of that, were asked on the low to rewrite Star Wars to punch up Star Wars, and also Howard the Duck, and actually sounds like a couple of other projects, but this is news that just came out that they were involved in the rewriting of them, which is also sad indeed, because I'm like, well, wait, man. So they didn't get the credit, you know, when this stuff was going on, but now many years later, they're now getting credit for it apparently. Apparently so Katz did an interview in 2017 where this stuff came out. So she is survived by her husband William and her daughter Rebecca. So, you know, like I said, sad news. Next up.
Surprise Star Wars casting's been reported. Nick Nolte has joined Disney's The Mandalorian.
I believe this is still in the rumor phase.
Alrighty, I was about to say it's The Mandalorian 48 hours.
I know, right? Although, yeah, all right. Oh, no, never mind. I'm not going to do that. Although I think though there might have been an article kind of maybe confirming a little bit more, but at this point, I refuse to believe that this is actually true.
Okay.
Apparently, apparently Nick Nolte will. So we know Pedro Pascal is involved with it, and Gina Carano is also in the cast. Apparently, so interesting. Gina Carano from last seen in for me in the Fast and Furious movies, if I'm not mistaken.
Getting thrown out of a jet or shot out of a jet.
Oh yeah, that is right. That was what, 7, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I still need to watch 8, but I don't know. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Luke Skywalker's original lightsaber is going up for auction. And as Mark Hamill himself said that in his tweet when that came out from Fortune magazine, be advised there is no one lightsaber he used in the films, but many, both for himself and his stunt double. Multiple duplicate backup props are commonplace during production. When handle ridges were cutting my hand, they even made a few with soft sponge ridges. Buyer beware.
Oh no.
I know, right? So that said, you know, that's not stopping people from
wanting to own one.
Wanting to own one, exactly. So hey, look, I'd want one too if I had the money. So
alrighty, next up. A Blue Beetle movie is in development at Warner Brothers. Okay.
Sure. And it sounds like it is the Jaime is it Jaime Reyes? Yes, Jaime Reyes version.
Yeah, I wanted to say Garcia, but he's a pitcher, I think, for the St. Louis Cardinals. Go on.
So it is the current version of Blue Beetle. Some would note from Young Justice and the cartoon, the comics, actually, because I don't know if it's actually been seen in the comics recently.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a rumor of a Blue and Gold reunion. Somewhere around, but I'm not sure if I put that in in the lineup. So hey, if it happens, oh wait, excuse me. So it's reported, but yeah, the film will be scripted by Gareth Dunnett, Alcasor. Hopefully I am pronouncing that name right, but it kind of doesn't matter because apparently he's writing the upcoming Scarface reboot, which doesn't even reboot. With Zell Foreman producing the film. The film will also be notable for featuring the first Latino superhero on the big screen. That's the big screen because Ghost Rider was in the small screen, notably. And I don't know if you were Cassian Andor falls in that. Some would argue, and he's not necessarily a superhero, but regardless, hey, it's a thing that could happen.
Alrighty. What are we up to?
Titans.
Okay, I think this is yours because I did the Blue Beetle one. You were just going off about Cassian.
Yeah, hey, Titans expands its DC universe in a major way. This I still haven't caught up with the show, but this is from the episode Donna Troy from Titans off of DC Universe, which I think is like episode 7 or something.
Okay.
7, 8, something like that. So apparently Donna Troy is in the show now and is a friend of Robin's, and there's some whispers. Actually, they also say that, hey, there's a Justice League in this universe because apparently in one scene, Donna's sitting on Dick's bed and doing homework and informs Dick that it's Diana, that is Wonder Woman, to whom Bruce's Wayne is talking to downstairs. It's a Justice League thing, she says nonchalantly. And I talked her into bringing me on. I thought we could get into some trouble, but I guess I missed all the fun. So that was, I guess, something that the character said during the course of the scene. So,
okay,
which I guess establishes the fact that there's a Justice League in this version.
Alrighty. So, President Bartlett.
What's next?
I'll tell you what's next. Warner Brothers is looking into some allegations of abuse against the Black Lightning showrunner Salim Akil.
Mm-hmm.
That sucks.
Yeah, and apparently there was an update to this to the story that says that after publication, Salim Akil's legal representative sent us the following statement: "These allegations are deeply unsettling, but they are also totally untrue. We will defend Salim to the fullest against the false and offensive claims that a woman with whom he had a past relationship is included in multiple unsubstantiated lawsuits. Salim looks forward to clearing his name and to be able to focus on his work and family." So I guess this is unfolding still.
Mm-hmm.
And it is sad one way or the other, because if the allegations are true, then that's sad on, and if it's not true, it's also sad. But apparently, it's last week, actress Amber Dixon Brenner filed a lawsuit in Los Angeles claiming that over her 10-year affair with Akil that ended last year, there were multiple instances of physical abuse and consensual sexual contact. So that's what started this.
Okay.
We won't go to but that's the thing. So we'll see how that pans out. Next. Is that me? Yeah. Oh, Oliver Goes Legit. And the new Green Arrow is finally unmasked in his latest Arrow, another show I hadn't been keeping up with. So I believe Oliver's been in jail and now he's out. And there's been another Green Arrow that is floating around, and apparently is someone that is in the recent comics as another Arrowverse Arrow character, and that is Emiko Queen, the secret sister to Oliver. Which now that I think about it, I'm like, wait, so well, never mind, because that just opens up a whole thing with me. I'm like, wait, one, he's already got a sister that he didn't have in the comics, and that's who's just left the show. Regardless, anyway, a character first introduced in the comics is the daughter of Robert Queen. So it's technically the same kind of character but different. Maybe, I don't know. This is weird. So he now has another sister in the show. Okay. In addition to the one that he already had on the show. and this is the one that is in the comics now, who is playing Red Arrow, who is Red Arrow in the comics, and I believe has had a stint in the comics. It is because she's also with Teen Titans now. Now that I think about it. So regardless, it is a thing. And that's whatever. Next
up, Voltron, the Legendary Defender Netflix series, has released a final season trailer. Unbelievably, because Netflix does these short seasons, they're able to kind of churn through these. That actually makes it fairly easy to binge watch and get through these if you are interested in trying to catch up. It's actually not that bad. It's worth the watch, I think. I think it definitely does grate on your nostalgia senses sometimes, but at the same time, you have to come in with an open mind and accept that it's going to be a little different from what you grew up with, and it'll still be in the same general spirit of what you watched.
Whatever, that show's fun and dark at times. So
right. Well, all I was gonna say is there's just times when I'm like, "Come on, what's wrong with you people?" But they're drawing out the seasons.
Yeah, because they can do that.
Yeah, because they have more extended stories to tell.
Mm-hmm. So this is going to be 13 episodes and season 8, and the final season of Voltron Legendary Defender is scheduled to be released on December 14th, which I could have sworn the last season was just like a month ago.
Right. Like I said, abbreviated seasons, so that's how they can put them out relatively quickly.
Sure. And again, like you said, it's the 8th and final season. So there you go. Preacher renewed for fourth season on AMC, which hey, who knew that show was still going on?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nothing else to say about it.
All right. Star Trek. Patrick Stewart's Jean-Luc Picard series will arrive at the end of 2019. So this is going to be an CBS All Access show, right?
Of course.
So it's going to come. I guess it's going to go into production, and we'll start to see episodes at the end of next year.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there are 4 lights. Just putting that out there. Anywho, we're going into the comic book news now.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, this is perfect because there's more Star Trek news. In that, I should have sent this to Dirt, which you've probably seen it already. But Star Trek gets a new, perfectly named whiskey. Now, granted, this is.
I was kind of hoping it would be green.
I know, right? Some ramen and ale. That would have been perfect.
Isn't that what it was? Isn't that what they offer? What he found to be like the most alcoholic thing on the Enterprise?
Yeah,
it was like a green. It was a green alcoholic because everything else had like synthahol in it or something like that.
Right. Well, they quote unquote came across it some kind of way.
Right.
But or unless you're talking about the new Star Treks in which they raided the Kirk and Bones raided Chekhov's stash some kind of way and found what, scotch or whiskey, one of the two. Because then they thought they thought he was a vodka man because he's Russian or something. Mm-hmm. But regardless, so anyway, yeah, there is a new apparently this is not the first one. So anyway, there, if you're watching the video, you can see the name of the whiskey is called Montgomery Scotch, because as we know from, and sadly stereotypical TOS episodes and later in the movies, that Scotty loved him some whiskey.
Alrighty.
So yes, it's blended Scotch whiskey, but again, this is not the first company. The same company who cares about the name also launched the James T. Kirk straight bourbon whiskey over the summer. Describes the beverage as a genuine blend Scotch whiskey with a slight smoky note. I still personally don't know the real differences. I do and I don't, but I always get them confused. The difference between Scotch and whiskey.
Scotch is Scotland.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, well, it's a top of the barrel, bottom of the barrel type situation. So
Scotch is whiskey made in Scotland.
sure,
Bottom
but
line.
but it's still but it still is a top of the bottle, top or bottom barrel, or I'm thinking of bourbon. I don't know. Regardless, liquor. So that's the thing.
Alrighty. Next up, DC Nation, the promotional magazine, is ending publication and is going to relaunch sometime soon. I always thought that it was awkwardly sized.
Yes, because it was a mighty big book, and I'm just like, there's very little way possible that they were going to keep going the way they were with as much as they put in that book. So I'm in agreement with you.
Right, for free.
Yes, and for free, mind you, and physically and digitally. So they put that out. So I mean, that's whatever. But so the next issue that comes out, the last issue that just came out from a couple of weeks ago is the last one. And they say we're going to hiatus, watch for a relaunch for DC Nation soon. I'm assuming they're going to probably downsize it, and because but the funny part about it is there was a book I was reading this week, a DC book that looks like it had some content that could have possibly gone into it, that or may have possibly had gone into it. Now that I think about it, but it is what it is. So hey, next.
Alrighty. Let me do this one too.
Sure.
Old Man Robin and Superboy, sort of in Adventures of Super Sons #5 preview.
So apparently DC's got the old person bugs, just like Marvel has done in the past, because they've already done Old Lady Harley, and that's going on right now. So now that they're doing, and in fact, I think that issue came out last week. To where this comes up from. So Old Man Robin and Superboy were in the Adventures of Super Sons, which that's still going on, and it's still kind of a side thing outside of whatever's going on Superman. They get a peek at their potential future selves, while they're out in space doing whatever they're doing. So anyway, next up. Frank Miller is returning for you should have gotten this one now that I think about it. But Frank Miller is returning for Tom King's Batman. So Batman writer Tom King dropped a bombshell on the comic community today when he teased a collaboration with the acclaimed writer of Batman Year One and of course Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller. King tweeted an image of the battle damage and decidedly Miller drawn Dark Knight along with the caption "Coming up in Batman." Art by Frank Miller.
Okay.
So no more details on that. Outside of a solicitation from January saying that saying that Miller's involved with the cover, with a variant cover at that. So guess we'll see.
Alrighty, next up. Boom. Editor Whitney Leopard has jumped to Random House graphic. Where it's an imprint of Random House, where they're going to put out. They plan to launch in the fall of 2019 titles for both children and teenagers, including taking over Random House children books publications of Jeffrey Brown's Lucy and Andy Neanderthal, Baby Mouse by Jennifer L. Holm and Matthew Holm, and Judd Winnick's Hilo.
Oh, congrats to her. IDW's Marvel Action #1 is fully returnable for retailers. So I guess if they have any back stock that didn't sell, they can send them back. And it says here, furthermore, all second issues will be returnable as long as retailers ordered 85% of their #1 orders. Issues 3 to 6 will be fully returnable if they match their orders from the previous issue.
Okay.
So I guess that's some news for retailers. Yeah.
Yep. Next up is actually a story that we did already, so I'm going to skip
that already. So we're gonna skip that.
And meet the Skrulls, beat the Skrulls, step right up and meet the Skrulls. Hides an alien family in the Marvel Universe. For all of you baseball fans out there and noted Mets fan, Agent_70, that was sung to the tune of Meet the Mets. Marvel Comics has announced Meet the Skrulls, a new series that focuses on a group of secret Skrulls disguised as a human family living in the Marvel Universe. No, this time they won't be cows.
I was hoping we were going to do that. So yeah, it's going to be written by Robbie Thompson and Nico Henriksen.
Yeah.
Sure. No other, and covers by Marcos Martin. No other details. Sure, this is somewhat, as this article points out, may be some due to the upcoming Captain Marvel film. So we'll see how that plays out. Amazing Spider-Man just reversed another one more day memory wipe.
Yeah, this is something I did not discuss in my review of
Yes.
last week's Amazing Spider-Man because I didn't want to spoil it.
Right. And since it's a week away, we probably still won't. But hey, someone, if you can see the picture, I guess.
All right. Hint, hint, if you can't see the picture, for those of you listening on the audio, the character is a namesake of a Janet Jackson track on the Rhythm Nation album.
Nice. Cute. And yes, longtime friend, foe, love interest of one Peter Parker. Off and on, off again, teeth. Anyway, Timothy Zahn is writing a new Thrawn novel. It's coming next year. It's going to be called Thrawn Treason. It is a sequel to 2017's Thrawn, which covered the villain's origin. Wow, wait, Thrawn came out in 2017, I think? I could have sworn it was earlier than that. And Thrawn Alliances, the sequel that brought Thrawn and Darth Vader together for the first time. The book is set in the aftermath of the demise of Thrawn's TIE Defender project in Star Wars Rebels. So there is Rebels tied to this. And actually kind of spoilers for me because I haven't finished Rebels. After it's killed in favor of the Empire's weapons project that becomes the Death Star, which makes total sense in the universe. The new book follows the titular character as he grapples with an impossible choice, heeding a warning from a former aide-de-camp, Eli Vanto, who brings word that Thrawn's homeworld is in danger, or remain loyal to the Empire he pledged to serve. Thrawn being a character that a lot of people like because of his books. This is me saying this. I'm sure another Thrawn book by the person who made Thrawn famous is a welcome sight.
Alrighty. And sadly, our last bit of news for the night is, not great news. Independent publisher Lionforge has been hit with some layoffs. They had to lay off 12 employees this week. Obviously, the timing is bad. Timing for layoffs is never good. But that sucks. I know that Lionforge, the articles say that Lionforge has to restructure to maintain its competitive edge, and that makes the most sense in the world to keep, the publisher going. I can tell you that Lionforge sometimes doesn't have the easiest time getting a better share of the market because, at the end of the day, they're competing with the big two, and the big two take up a lot of space on shelves in comic book stores.
Yeah, mostly because of we don't know, mostly for reasons, but obviously, retailers have their own thoughts about what should be theirs and other factors,
Exactly.
So we can't really speculate on that. Which is the same because there are some really good books in that Catalyst Prime. I mean, obviously they're still going, and it's not like they're shutting down or anything, but there are some good books in that Catalyst Prime universe. So, and you hate to see, believe me, hate to see people losing their jobs.
Yep.
I would tell you that more than anyone.
Right. That's so.
Yeah.
That's not cool. Hopefully, they can bounce back in the new year.
Yeah, and this is the thing that happens. I mean, these are not the only ones and not the first ones to do such a thing. But for such a already smallish company, it's not a good news.
Yep.
But again, not saying anything that it's not nothing doomsaying. It's just that hey, this happens with companies, big or small.
Right. So, and hopefully we can end on a slightly up note. I don't think I picked up anything this week that needs to be talked about. Wise, did you?
Nothing comic book related.
Okay. I'll go. One of the 12 days of.
Oh wait. Eagles. Oh, it's not comic related because I was gonna say that I did pick up that that I finally got my that Spider Woman Funko, and I also well, that one is, but I also finally got my Biggie Funko.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Still not Okoye in the red dress, but nevertheless.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, let's not talk about that one. I actually got my order in on time on that one. That's the annoying part. I actually got my order in on time on that one. It's not like I got there and they're like, "Oh, it's sold out," you know. But anyway, I got one of the 12 days of offers on Amazon was for toys, and I happened to check in on that day, and they had the Ghost Rider motorcycle, Marvel Legends, for a good price. It's like $27, so I picked it up. It should be here by the weekend.
Nice. There was, never mind, it's not worth talking about it now. Well, kind of is, kind of isn't. So Amazon, for a brief moment, had a bunch of Fantastic Four Masterworks for free. The Kindle versions of Fantastic Four Masterworks for free on Amazon for what seemed like a brief minute, as Tim showed it. I think I got a bunch of them in, but however, they are, I don't know if this is going price, but they are $5.99. I think I've seen them for more than this, but they are still $5.99, which is cheaper than what I've seen some of these Masterworks, but I think those were actually they may or may have been, may not have been. No, wait a minute. So yeah, here's a $16.99 version of the Kindle version of one. And I've seen like 16 and 20, like I've seen them for more than $5. But so $6 is not bad for a Masterworks collection, even if it is the Kindle version. So you may want to go seek that out if you're so inclined. But that is the case, and we are going to end the show. We would like to thank each and every one of you guys.
We got to get our last ad read in.
Yes, you do. That's all right. Go for it. Sorry.
Speaking of, help keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, toys, or Kindle Marvel Masterworks. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through cspn.us. Do it today.
And that's what I get for opening up Twitter when we're trying to end the show. And that, folks, is the end of the show. We'd like to thank each and every one again for coming out. For Agent_70, who is on who is on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, INeedComics.com. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, The Click Nation, TheKliqNation, all one word on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter, TheClickNation.com. And also you can go check him out on the Comic Book Resources where he's writing his face off. Go check his stuff out. Click and read and click, all that. And myself, Roddykat on Twitter, News Nurse Need on Twitter. I don't know the site, so I'm gonna keep saying that. Whatever. CB Caps on Instagram, News Nurse Need on Reddit, all that good stuff. Go check it out. Again, you can find this podcast on Google Play and Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, the Coastal Lizard Podcast, SoundCloud, and of course Spotify. And you can also go to cspn.us where you can find this show and other fine shows of podcast quality. Good stuff over there. You should go check them out. But tell them, hey, hey, we're here, Comic Book Chronicles. We love your show. Go to that site and say, we love the Comic Book Chronicles. We want more. We give it to you every week, so I don't know how much more whatever. But regardless, shop.cspn.us for merch from this show and other shows on the network. And we will wait. Actually, I was going to say, stay tuned to our Twitters for next week, because doesn't Enter the Spider-Verse come out next week?
Think so.
I believe it does. So we may or may not have movie protocol going into effect, but stay tuned to our Twitters and we will let you know.
Yes.
The screening of Aquaman is that Saturday also. So if that is the case, it's going to be a full week of good stuff coming out, or at least the pre-screening, because I know Aquaman comes out the next week after that. But Amazon's on. We're talking about that regardless. So again, stay tuned to the Twitters and we will let you know if we will have a show. But every Thursday night we have a show, unless that's movie protocol night, 9-ish p.m. Same bat time, same bat channel on the YouTube, the Click Nation YouTube channel, and theclicknation.com/live. So come check us out there. And while I get this thing set up, I am going to say that this is the Comic Book Chronicles, and we are out.
Peace. One.
Good evening, Rick. Would you believe it's Dr. Doom?
What's on your evil mind?
Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really hired Mr. Stark?